Okay. So in the last class we stopped here expected value of the sample variance. Expected value of the sample variance. Expected value of the sample variance. So did you try it at home? You were supposed to try it at home, and so now I'm going to write the answers. If you put this E inside, sigma will be outside, and finally the answer that you will get. So because you started with the definition this, right? You took this definition of S square. Am I right? You started with this definition. So the final answer that you will get will be this one. My suggestion is you should try it at home. Okay. So this answer you will get. So this one is biased estimator or unbiased estimator?
These are biased.
Unbiased. This is unbiased. How many of you agree this is the unbiased estimator of the population variance? Biased estimator. Why?
Because the expected of sample variance should be sigma square by.
Expected value of the sample variance is less than the population variance.
If we take n minus 1, then it will be equal to.
Pardon?
If we take n minus 1, then it will be equal to square.
So what he is suggesting that instead of this, if you start with this definition, then n minus 1 will come here, n minus 1 will come here, and finally n minus 1 will come here, and you will get exactly sigma square, which is equal to the population variance, and this is going to be the unbiased estimator.
Our purpose is that the expected value of the sample parameters should be unbiased.
Yes.
Right. For that.
How do you know whether something is biased or unbiased? Only when you take the expected value of that particular random variable and if it leads to the population parameter in expected sense, then it will be unbiased. Therefore, this is the reason why we use n minus 1. Did you get the answer? Why we use n minus 1 in standard deviation? Because that gives the unbiased estimate. Why don't we use n? Because it gives the biased estimator of the population variance. Okay. What would be the distribution of sample mean? Now we will answer this question. What is sample mean? X bar. And sample mean is a random variable. So it has to follow a distribution. Okay. So we are going to discuss what kind of distribution it is going to follow. Summation I equal to 1 to n xi. This is your sample mean. Okay. Now suppose xi is normally distributed. This xi. If this xi, the population, is normally distributed, okay, and if you are drawing some samples out of that, right, so those samples are also going to be normally coming out from, they are following the normal distribution coming from that population, from that genesis, okay. So if you sum all these distributions, means all these random variables, so suppose there is one is this, Okay, one is this, one is this, because you are drawing different samples, right? So you will get one value for this one value for this one value for this one. This is a random variable. Okay, now what you do, first you take n equal to 10, then you take n equal to 100, then you take n equal to 1000. Okay, as you keep increasing the number of samples drawn to calculate the sample mean, and then you make a series of random variables of the sample mean, as you increase this value of n, the distribution of what? Sample mean. Distribution of sample mean. So this distribution of sample mean will change with n, right? If you draw 10 samples and you prepare a series of random variables and plot the distribution, then you take 100, then you take 1000, then you take 10,000. So certainly this distribution will show some change, right? As this number n will increase, this distribution will become normal again. Okay, I am not going to give the proof of this because this is out of the scope of this particular course, but this thing is known as central limit theorem. Central limit theorem says, does not matter what is the original distribution of the population, does not matter what the original distribution of the population, if you increase the number of samples drawn, ultimately it will lead to the normal distribution. This is one of the most important theorem after total probability theorem. This is one of the most important theorem of statistics, or you can say probability, which is known as central limit theorem, and this can be proved, but this is not our objective. We have to use this theorem for engineering applications. Central limit theorem. This theorem says about the distribution of the sum of a large number of random variables. Okay, this theorem is about the distribution of the sum of a large number of random variables. Large number means n tending to infinity or very large. This theorem says that the sum of a large number of random numbers, large number means n of these random numbers, tends to the Gaussian distribution regardless of their initial distribution, regardless from where these xi are coming, as the number of those variables increases. So this xi might have come from exponential, log normal, does not matter. Ultimately, if you take the sample mean for large n, this will lead to the distribution of x bar will be Gaussian. This is central limit theorem. Okay, theorem is clear, right? We should not go into the proof, but theorem is clear. Okay, now so now first see here, this is sample mean, this is normally distributed. Okay, why? If n is large, this is normally distributed. How can you write this? Okay, here what you will write? Mu, because the expected value, it means mean, is mu. You have calculated yesterday. What you will write here? ना हाँ बताओ कोशिश करो. Sigma by root n. So the distribution of sample mean is normal distribution with mean mu, standard deviation sigma by root n. Okay, If n tends to infinity, this becomes 0. If this becomes 0, if standard deviation is 0, if a random variable standard deviation is 0, then how the distribution will look like? If standard deviation is 0, how the distribution of a random variable will look like? Draw. Wrong. 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 If standard deviation is 0, the variable is not random. Variable is deterministic. There is no uncertainty. There is no uncertainty. If no uncertainty, we are in the domain of determinism. What it says, that if you increase the sample size, standard deviation is 0, this is becoming deterministic, so randomness is going. So that's why this is representative of epistemic uncertainty. Epistemic uncertainty can be controlled. Epistemic uncertainty, if you remove all the epistemic uncertainty present in any model, it will become a deterministic model. There is no epistemic uncertainty, right? So all the time while discussing in the class, you have to keep your mind, eyes, nose open, ear. Okay. Now, how can you write this one as standard normal distribution? Standard normal says n 0 1. So what will be here? So this is normal distribution, right? Standard normal distribution. Okay. But now the important thing comes here. Listen very carefully. See, there is a very interesting story. Okay. This story was told to me by Professor Mukesh Sharma from IIT Kanpur when he was teaching me a course on statistics and probability at IIT Kanpur. So from there I remember this story, but I don't remember exactly, but I think I should tell. So he told us that long back in UK, there was some problem that students were not allowed to publish the papers from their name. If it is found, then there was some penalty, or maybe they might have, there was some kind, they will be rusticated or something like that. I don't know, something like that. So there was one graduate student. He was very much interested in all this statistics and probability. So he started studying the distribution of this X bar. Okay, and what happened that he first took 10 samples and he plotted the distribution. Then he took 11 samples, like that. Sequentially, he increased the n value from a hypothetical data set. He chose hypothetical set, universal set, and from there he was drawing the samples and he started analyzing it. And he finally concluded that if n is large, then it follows the central limit theorem, no doubt. So it is a normal distribution if n is say 20, 30 or larger. It was giving a very good estimate of normal distribution, acceptable. But what he found, if n is small, then it was not normal, because this is the condition of central limit theorem that n has to be large. But if n is not large, then central limit theorem does not apply. Then he found that if n is not large, central limit theorem does not apply, then there was another kind of distribution he was finding. He studied that distribution and then he published, but he was not allowed to write the name. what he wrote in that author, but because it was his work, right? How he can put your name? He did, but he was not allowed also. So he put the name student.
The student distribution.
He put the name student, and that distribution is known as students T distribution, which we are going to talk today. So that was the story behind that. I am not completely sure about this story, but this story was told to me. That's why I remember from someone. Okay. So what he found, that if n is small, it does not follow normal distribution. It follows students T distribution. So the distribution followed by the sample mean is actually students T distribution, not normal. Because we know n is never going to be infinity. So we always represent it as students T distribution, which looks like something like this. This looks like normal only. It has to. It is a symmetric distribution just like normal. The only thing is actually it is not normal, if you see. So here n2, if n2 is large, then see, if n1 is small, then you can see standard deviation is high. When n2 is larger, standard deviation is reducing. Why? Okay, why this shape is like that? Why it is like, means why if n2 is large, why it is squeezing? See, if it will squeeze, it will go up because area has to remain 1. Okay, but why it is? Yeah, so because sigma by root n is this standard deviation. So the standard deviation of this solid curve is sigma by root n2, and this one sigma by root n1. Because n2 is larger than n1, so sigma by root n2 will be smaller than sigma by root n1. So that's why this is thinner and this one is broader, and that's why it is going up. Okay. So all of them are these students T distribution. So see, this is the PDF of sample mean, and this is sample mean, and expected value is population mean here, unbiased. So this is known as students T distribution. So if we put infinity number of samples, then it becomes n01. So basically in students T distribution, we draw the distribution of this one, this quantity. We draw the distribution of this quantity, because this is normalized, because this is normalized. Okay. So if we take infinite number of samples, then it becomes n01, infinite degrees of freedom. It has written like that, 6, 2, so it will keep broadening. Since the standard deviation of the population is never known before, because we know there is some population is there from where the samples are coming, but we will never know the population. Is never known beforehand. Therefore, this needs to be estimated from the sample variance again, because when you are writing here this thing, right, this is not known. Sigma is not known. How will you get the sigma? You have to use S, right? Thus, the distribution of sample mean does not follow a normal distribution. It will not follow, because this is another reason. S. This is slightly different distribution which seems like a normal distribution and is known as students T distribution. Yes. Okay. So this S is also not known to us. So that's why this distribution when we plot becomes the student's T distribution. Because from where will you get the sigma? Population only. So I would like to mention here that how this distribution looks like. It is not necessary, but I can tell Ft, T, this is student's T distribution, gamma function n by 2, square root pi n minus 1, gamma function n minus 1 by 2, 1 plus T square n minus 1 minus n by 2, where T goes from minus 2 plus infinity, and when n tends to infinity, Ft tends to normal. So you might observe here a interesting thing, that n is coming in the picture. So with n, this distribution is changing. How many samples you have considered, right? So here, this thing is known as, this n minus 1 is known as basically degrees of freedom. Why? Why it is known as degrees of freedom? Why not n? N is the number of sample, right? You took that sample and then from there you estimated S. From there you estimated S. So you used those sample once to get the parameters of the distribution. That's why now the degrees of freedom are considered as n minus 1. That one information has already been extracted. So now the original information remained is n minus 1. That's why when you suppose you have 100 samples and you want to fit the distribution, then you will take, if you are calculating S, suppose if you know sigma beforehand, someone came and told you sigma this one, and you are not using the population, then it will remain n. Otherwise you have to use 99, n minus 100 minus 1. Because one information you already took from the samples. So that is known as degrees of freedom. So based on that, the table charts have been prepared. You can look at that, and because these kind of functions can be calculated only through charts or graphs. Okay. Now we come to the next distribution, which is very popularly known as chi-square distribution. Okay, chi-square distribution. What is chi-square? So this chi-square represents basically the distribution of the ratio of the sample variance S square to population variance sigma square follows a chi-square distribution. So the distribution of this quantity, see, S square by sigma square. S is coming from sample, sigma is coming from the population. The distribution of this quantity follows the chi-square distribution. Not chi square, chi-square. Okay. Why square? Because here square on the sample variance is this S and sigma. That's why this square comes. It is known as chi-square distribution. and this distributions looks something like this. So it starts something like exponential, then looks like a log normal, then slightly looks like a standard normal kind of thing. Okay. So how it is defined? Basically, you can plot n minus 1 s square by sigma square. So n minus 1 is multiplied as a constant just to make the mathematics simple. Okay, and it represents again degree of freedom. Okay, so it depends what informations you are taking from the sample, and I think there is no need to write the exact expression. It also has the expression something like gamma function and all those things, which I think there is no point, and I'm not going to write that. The important thing what I want to convey here is what I want to convey here is, okay, what is the expected value of this one? What will be the expected value of this one? So basically this is the random variable that for which you are plotting the chi-square distribution. I am asking what is the expected value of this random variable. N minus 1. Why? This is constant. This is also constant, will come out. Expected value of s square is sigma square, because unbiased estimation, it becomes n minus 1. So if you see these curves, so with increasing n they are moving forward, because their expected value is moving forward. Can you see? See, with increasing value of n, which is shown as f here, these curves are moving forward, because this is directly proportional to n, degrees of freedom. And second thing that I want to show here is variance of this one. Variance of s square. I know it is a bit complicated to calculate, because here I think I did not calculate variance of s. I did not calculate, right? I'm not going to calculate it, because here there will be fourth order terms will be there. If you see, if you expand s, what is s? Summation of xi minus x bar whole square, and here you are doing the square of square, so the fourth order terms are going to come. Okay, that goes to the fourth order movements. So what was the first order movement? Second order movement? Very good. Third order movement? Now here for the first time you are seeing the fourth order movement. Okay, I'll just tell the name, that is known as kurtosis. बस इसके आगे अगर पढ़ना होगा, so when the time will come, you are capable enough to understand and read it and find its meaning. Okay, that goes. So now education stops, research and other things start, advanced things starts. So that's why it is said that you do BTech, right? You learn the basics, then you do MTech, you learn little bit how to use those basics to generate the knowledge, and then you do PhD, where you really generate the knowledge, and after that you don't need to study anything. You need to only generate the knowledge. Think, generate, think, generate, think. That is PhD. That's why it is known as doctorate of philosophy, not doctorate of civil engineering. बीटेक इन सिविल इंजीनियरिंग होता है, एमटेक इन स्ट्रक्चर होता है, बट पीएचडी सबका एक ही होता है, डॉक्टरेट ऑफ फिलोसफी. वाई? बिकॉज नाउ यू आर गोइंग फ्रॉम प्रैक्टिस टू फिलोसफी. Practice to philosophy. BTech is all about practice. MTech is all about practice. But PhD is all about generating new philosophy which will become practice or may become practice in near future. And I said that real life is all about practice. Philosophy is for bedtime stories. So if you want a career where you want to have a very bedtime type lifestyle, you should go for PhD. It's the most relaxing career if you have love for the research. You have to do nothing, you have to just do the philosophy, which will help the practicing engineers, and you can enjoy your life. The enjoyment that you get from the brain, you cannot get from money. That's for sure. Because once someone is tired of applying too much of brain, then they run behind money. Okay, so I'm not going to go into detail. This is mathematically very long and does not make any point, but you should know that there will be fourth order movement which is known as kurtosis, and you can calculate, and I can maybe basically give the answer. Variance becomes 2n minus 1. Okay. That's why it is becoming flattened. Now we are going to solve one example. Please bring out your calculator. So till now we discussed method of movements for point estimation. Now we are going to do one example. The data for the fatigue life of aluminum yielded the sample mean and sample variance as 26.75 million cycles. Fatigue test, how do we do? We apply the cycles, right? And after a certain number of cycles it fails. Okay, so the data for the fatigue life of aluminum yielded the sample mean and sample, so they might have taken some samples of aluminum. They did the fatigue test and found that this is the 26.75 million cycles is the fatigue life. This is the mean, and sample variance is 360 square million cycles. Why square? Because sigma square has the units of square variance respectively. Okay, determine the distribution of the fatigue life of aluminum. The first thing that you should write is x bar is, then s square is, now गुड. दिखाओ दिखाओ. अरे कुछ लिखा नहीं? नहीं, कुछ तो लिखा होगा. इनपुट क्या लिखा था? कुछ नहीं लिखा. गुड. देखो इनपुट क्या लिखा था. अच्छा वो तो तुमने बाद में लिख लिया. I was searching if someone has written mu and sigma. मुझे लगा कि इतना बताने के बाद भी कोई mu and sigma लिख रहा है क्या. सी ओके, चलो ठीक है, मतलब सब लोग सेम पेज पे हैं. नाउ अब फैटिग लाइफ निगेटिव तो हो नहीं सकती, तो पॉजिटिव ही होगी. कौन सा डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन फिट होगा फैटिग लाइफ पे? सी आई वांट टू टेल, chi square and t distributions are usually not fitted to the sample data. They are fitted to the sample statistics, mean and standard deviation. Here on which random variable we want to fit the distribution? व्हाट इज द रैंडम वेरिएबल हियर? अरे रैंडम वेरिएबल क्या है? फैटिग लाइफ है। फैटिग लाइफ मीन तो है नहीं, स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन तो है नहीं, उसका मीन और स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन दिया गया है। फैटिग लाइफ है। अब फैटिग लाइफ पे तुम इस तरह के जो वेरिएबल्स होते हैं जिनको कहते हैं मतलब कि फिजिकल वेरिएबल्स, उन पर हम टी और काई स्क्वायर फिट नहीं करते हैं। टी एंड काई स्क्वायर आर, दैट्स व्हाई आई डिड नॉट टॉट दीज डिस्ट्रीब्यूशंस इन द प्रोबेबिलिटी थ्योरी। व्हाई आई एम टीचिंग हियर? Because these distributions are known as statics. They will provide you statistics. Okay, so these are not the natural distributions. So what distribution you would like to fit? Log normal. Someone can also say exponential. Now what is the next step? लॉग नॉर्मल है, मान लो लॉग नॉर्मल है, मैंने लॉग नॉर्मल्स कर रखा है। ओके, व्हाट इज द नेक्स्ट स्टेप? पैरामीटर ऑफ द लॉग नॉर्मल। हाउ विल यू फाइंड? वेरी गुड, प्लीज फाइंड। सो लेट अस से पैरामीटर इज mu x. हाउ डू यू राइट पैरामीटर्स? This comes from where? This comes from where? This comes from where? Data. This comes from where? Probability theory. Now the role of, now we will start what? Statistics. Method of first movement. Method of first movement. So now you can estimate, you need to estimate lambda and zeta, but they will not be exact, they will be estimates. Put a hat, this is estimate. नक्कालों से सावधान. They are not real Shah Rukh Khan, so they are copies. It's a hat. So please do. वो जो रील्स में आते नहीं कई कई, वो नकली वाला अजय देवगन आ जाता है, शाहरुख खान आ जाता है, सलमान खान आ जाता है रील्स में, तो ये वो है। Where is Vivek and Mayank? Okay, so you are not in touch. 2, 3, 5 total. There are total 8 students, right, in this course? है ना? 8 है ना? Okay. कोर्स चलते रहना चाहिए। Yes. You know this thing from probability theory. You know this thing here. Now, so what you will do? Estimate of mu x. Estimate of this thing. What is estimate of mu x? Sample mean. And what is estimate of this one? Now what you will get? Please calculate and tell me. थोड़ा स्पीड बढ़ा लो यार अपनी। Zeta? Zeta, na? How much?
0.638.
Okay, correct.
And lambda will be
3.08.
zeros.
Correct. So these are the correct answers. 3.08 and this one is 0.64. How many of you are getting these numbers? दिखता है यहाँ से? तो इधर बैठ जाओ. हाँ. Otherwise you can sit here, but don't come in front of camera because it's okay, na? It's okay, it's okay. So now you know the distribution, right? Calculated, everyone? Okay, so please calculate it. And now you know the distribution. If you know the parameter, you know the distribution, now you can calculate anything, whatever you want. Okay, that I have already taught enough in probability theory, you are good enough for that. Okay, but the concept is clear now. Now we are going to the another method which is known as method of maximum likelihood. Till now we covered method of movements, which is for the point estimation. Now this is another method for the point estimation known as maximum likelihood method. Unlike the method of movements, this is a direct method for point estimation. This is a direct method. Okay, why method of movement is indirect? Why method of movement is indirect? Very good, very good. This is the reason. In method of movements, we are using some predefined formulas that we developed in probability theory, which is not direct. Suppose in future some unknown kind of distribution comes for which you don't have some mu or some these kind of formulas. Then what you will do? That is the limitation of method of movement. Second, method of movement does not care about the intermediate data. It directly talks about mean, standard deviation, right? The descriptors, but not the random variable itself. Method of movement is dependent upon the descriptors. What are descriptors? Mean, median, mode, standard deviation, variance, COV, skewness, kurtosis. These are descriptors, but not the random variable. That's why it is indirect method. It is possible that there can be two different sets of random variable which can have the same descriptor. It means you will fit the same distribution on them, which may not be true. So method of movement is good, simple, easy, but it may lead to wrong answers if you dig deep. That's why there is more accurate method which is known as maximum likelihood method, and this is a direct method. It takes into account all data points, not only the descriptor, each data point it will take. Clear? This method provides the most likely values of the distribution parameters, which will produce the sample set in the question. This will provide the most likely values of the distribution parameters. Method of movement provides the approximate value of the distribution parameters, which is reasonably approximate, but this will provide the most likely, not exact, most likely. This is an optimization problem where the objective profit function is the likelihood function. So profit you want to maximize. Loss you want to minimize. In optimization there are two types of problems, maximization and minimization. When we talk about maximization, the objective function is known as profit function. When we want to minimization, objective function is known as cost function. These kind of words you may find and it may confuse you, but don't need to confuse, because word profit means maximize, word cost means minimize. The likelihood of obtaining a particular sample value will be proportional to the value of the PDF at that sample value. Now we will see how this method works. पाँच मिनट है रैप करने के लिए ना, रैप अप करने के लिए, ठीक है। ओके, तो मैं 5 मिनट में जल्दी से ये मेथड बता देता हूँ, इसका एग्जाम्पल कल करेंगे, ठीक है। मेथड बता देता हूँ अभी। सो लेट अस से देयर इज ए रैंडम वेरिएबल x, ओके, विच फॉलोज ए PDF x comma theta, okay. Theta is set of parameters. Sample values, these are sample values, okay. These are sample values. This is the distribution which we want to fit on this. Theta are the parameters which we want to determine. This is the fatigue life. These are fatigue life samples. This is log normal distribution, and log normal distribution parameters are in this set theta that we want to calculate. Okay, clear? So we define a likelihood function which is written as what is the meaning of this? This says
the likelihood of any event x to x.
Very good. Or in other sense, this is the probability of getting these values of the random variable given the set of parameters theta.
Yes.
That's why this conditional probability came. Given the set of parameters theta, what is the probability to get these values of the random variable? And if we maximize this one, our problem is solved. We want to maximize this, right? We want to increase the probability of getting these random variables given the set of theta. For which theta this probability will be maximized, those theta will be our answer. What it says that this will be equal to it says that all these observations are statistically independent. They have to do nothing with anyone randomly drawing. So we can write their total probability by multiplying individual PDFs. That's what it is saying, that likelihood function is represented as the multiplication of their individual PDFs. This is not probability, but these are PDFs. These are PDFs, right? So that is the thing, that it will be proportional to the value of the PDF at that sample value. Now, what we want to do? We want to maximize this one with respect to theta. So what we will write? Del L by del theta equal to G. And from here, get theta that maximizes L. So here this theta that we will get, that will be estimate of distribution parameter. So we will write theta hat. Okay. Now L is the multiplication of this one, but if you multiply and if you take the derivative, it is little complicated, so we take the log. We take the log. What log will do? It will break it in plus, and then you take the derivative. That is much easy. Otherwise what will happen? A, B, C, D, then derivative of f with theta plus, then it will be very complicated, right? So that is the idea. So we will take the log and then we will break it. That's how we solve the problem, optimization problem. That is the total nutshell. But here we did not use any mean, median, mode. We used all the data points, x1, x2. This is direct method. Okay. So tomorrow is the class. Day after tomorrow, Friday ना. Friday हम लोग थोड़ा सा लंबा चल देंगे. ठीक है.